The cost of motor insurance, especially for young drivers, has triggered a significant amount of debate in recent years. Indeed, the safety of young drivers, and in turn the premiums they pay for their motor insurance, has been subject to parliamentary debate, with proposals such as curfews dividing both insurance representatives and politicians alike. Against this backdrop, one firm has emerged with an agenda very much about challenging the conventional thinking to calculating the risk of young motorists by incentivising them to become better drivers. It was with this in mind that that firm, Ingenie, was rewarded for its work over its first 3 years with the prestigious Insurance Startup of the Year at the British Insurance Awards. So having pressed the BIA judges with its journey to date, I'm pleased to say that today I'm joined in the studio by its founder and CEO, Richard King, to talk about what sets the business apart and what the future holds for Ingenie. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you.
So Richard, what was the thinking behind setting up Ingenie?
Well, it wasn't originally going to be an insurance brand. When we pulled a team together, which was around sort of 2009, 2010, this was telematic engineers, driver psychology experts, and road safety experts and mathematicians. And what we were going to build was a company that was going to be a telematic service provider. And we were going to go out to the big insurers and say, look, here's a better way of insuring young people and actually try and deliver a loss ratio performance. But it's fair to say back then, insurers weren't quite ready for it. A lot of people didn't think it was going to happen. And I think that's what gave us the inspiration to think, well, we're not going to wait for the market to wake up. We're going to go and create Ingenie as an insurance brand. So I then approached two giants of the insurance industry, Steve Broughton, who'd been the MD of RSA, and Chris McKee, who'd been an executive director of Direct Line for I think about 15 years. And I went to them with the crazy idea of creating Ingenie, which would be initially a niche brand for young drivers. But thankfully they said yes. And at that stage as well, we teamed up with Quindel, who became a partner and investor. And then we got to use a lot of the clever technology that they were developing at that stage.
So, but what sets Ingenie apart then from the other players in the telematics market?
I think there's a couple of things. One would be technology, one would also be the tactics and approach that we've taken to actually trying to change and influence behaviour. If you look at technology, a lot of the telematic businesses at that stage, the telematic systems were being born from fleet applications. And this is where data was being captured, sort of a snapshot every, a few times a mile, and people sort of building up a general sort of braking acceleration score. We felt that wasn't enough for young drivers. What we really need to do is build up a picture of their driving DNA. And that's why we developed technology, which was groundbreaking back then, that captured data at 10 hertz, which is 10 pulses a second. Now, it's an awful lot of data to collect. We were then pumping that data to our servers about twice a minute. And we've now developed a suite of about 200 algorithms that have been calibrated over a number of years. We initially worked on those algorithms with Cranfield University. And this gives us a true, accurate picture of how the car is being driven by the young person. What you then got to try and do is educate them. Because with young people, it's a social and economic issue. The social issue is too many crashes, particularly in the first 6 months of driving. And the economic issue is typically they've been paying far too much for the insurance. But the only way they're going to get that cheaper insurance is changing their behaviour. So whilst we were using that data to make our underwriting more accurate, it was about changing their behaviour. Of course, young people have got attention deficit syndrome. How do you get their attention? How do you keep it? And smartphones was really the way. Of course, you ring a young person on a smartphone, they're unlikely to pick up the phone, but you send them a push notification and you can count the seconds that they're going to reply. So that's what we do. We were one of the first. We created the Ingenie app that gave them regular feedback on how they're driving, because we thought you can't expect them to go and look at a dashboard of data manually. They'll disengage very quickly. So with our app, 90% engage with the app. They check it about 14 times a month, even though we only send them updates as Twitter-style messages about 3 times a month. What we then looked at was, well, everyone's assuming this is all going to work because of self-selection. And of course, self-selection will erode after a while, because if you're top of screen on an aggregator, people are buying you because you're the cheapest, not because they're buying into your road safety message. So what we're seeing was about 5% of the community are quite reckless drivers. So we then created our DBU, our driver behaviour unit. And this is trained psychologists who've also then been taught about advanced driving. They're young people who are making outbound calls, young so it's not an older person with a potentially condescending tone. And these are young people making outbound calls to our most reckless drivers with phone calls lasting about 5 or 6 minutes. And the result of all of this, put all this together, is that we've achieved a loss ratio of about 70%, which is unheard of in the industry. And it's because of actually the work that we've done to reduce the number of crashes, was then that Prince Michael awarded us his International Road Safety Award last year.
You've already mentioned about the short attention spans of your target audience, young people. How are you engaging with them to get them on board in the first place?
Well, there's two main tricks here. One is that our marketing team is not 40, 50-year-olds in suits, because what would they know about what young people really want? Again, our marketing team is young, very clever people. They're really at the heart of the business, and they're allowed to, we really encourage them to zen and be creative and take risks. The other thing is focus groups. We do relentless numbers of focus groups with young people to find out actually what they want from an insurance brand. And we learned a couple of things. One is they do like the idea of a brand specifically for them, but they kept reminding us to say, look, we're young adults. We want to be treated as adults. We don't want you to start trying to be cool and try and talk our language, because an insurance company probably doing something like that is just going to look like dad dancing at a wedding. The other thing that they said to us is they did like the idea of being reached on social media. But of course, you've got to remember that social media is about having a conversation. It's not a hard sell. It's not say, come to Ingenie because we'll be X% cheaper. It's having a conversation with them. And we found that we've been pretty good at that. Of course, we are quite lucky that we've got Gary Lineker as one of our investors and ambassadors, and he's got over 3 million followers. But of course, we can't use him too often because actually his audience expects him to talk about football or crisps. So we do it sort of sparingly to try and keep the sentiment high.
And what attracted Gary Lineker then to become an investor and a spokesman for the business?
Well, clearly we couldn't look to compete with the BBC and Walkers for the sort of contracts he's got with them. But Gary's actually one of my best friends. He was my next door neighbour. He's the best man at my wedding later this year. And when Ingenie was in its infancy, he was coming round to pick me up, and he was coming, like all great startups, it started in my kitchen. And I had diagrams everywhere. I had algorithms and ideas of what the brand would be. And he was sort of saying, Kingy, what's going on here? And I sat down and I explained it to him. And of course, he totally got it because he's a father of 4 boys. 3 of them are on the road already. And he understood whilst he wasn't as concerned about the cost of insurance like some parents would be, it was for him, it was about the parent having peace of mind. And so he offered to invest. And we sort of said, well, no, that could destroy a good friendship if it didn't work. And then we thought about it. And then we thought, actually, he could be a brilliant ambassador because it's the bank of mum and dad that buys insurance. 70% of purchases are done by mum and dad. And of course, the dads will remember him as a great footballer that never got a yellow card and was England's second highest goal scorer. And the kids know him as the Chris man. So he invested and he's been the ambassador for the brand, and it's been a fantastic move for us.
I mean, obviously telematics has been very much a subject that's been in the insurance press and also the national press. What do you say to those kind of naysayers who think this actually telematics is just a fad?
Well, I think back in when we started, yes, there was a lot of doubters. I think if there's doubters now, you've got to say that they're dinosaurs. When we launched, I think we were the 2nd or 3rd to launch. You look now, I suspect there's 15 or 20 companies who've got some sort of offering out there. So I don't think there's anyone out there saying anymore that this isn't gonna catch on. It's caught on. It's happening. You look at it from a young driver point of view. Obviously, that's the niche product where it's all happening at the moment. I think one of the main aggregators said recently that 1 in 2 teenagers are now opting to have a box installed. So the market potential there is growing. It's growing very quickly. I think what it's about now is making sure that we can move it across all ages. And that's one of the other deals. That's the other reasons why we decided to have Quindel acquire the rest of the company, because we had insight to the innovation that was going on there and the work that they're doing around connected car. So the app that we're integrating into our offering will be very much part of a connected car world, a virtual world, where we're then going to start looking at other revenue opportunities, not strictly around the insurance premium.
So you talk about those opportunities. What is next for the business?
Well, international growth has always been at the heart of the business. We stated from day one, even in our first board meeting, that we wanted this to be an international business. And I'm delighted to say that we're achieving that. Quindel's given us the platform to do that. and our office in our offering in Canada goes live in the next few weeks. So we'll be starting in Ontario, which is the biggest prize across Canada, and then we'll probably be moving to Alberta. Ingenie USA is now incorporated, and I'm spending a lot of time travelling around there talking to potential carriers or insurers, and I think it's probably going to be New York State where we kick off first of all. But of course we're looking at other areas of the product. You know, good companies end up having a trick, and our young driver proposition has been our first trick. Great companies end up having 2 or 3 tricks, and so we're working on the second and the third trick at the moment.
Well, Richard, we look forward to following those developments with much interest. If you'd like to find out more information about Richard's business Ingenie, then go to their website, which is www.ingenie.com. All that's left for me to say is thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.